there we go. Now I'm really back, so everyone can see me now. Today's panel is Her Story, Her Power, Mental Health for Women. My name is Faith Murphy, and as a volunteer with the Niles Foundation, I will be your moderator today. Today we are going to hear from 3 amazing women who are making a difference in our communities and changing the way that women are approaching confidence, nutrition, relationships, and mental health. For those of you who are new here to the Niles Foundation, we are a nonprofit founded to build equity and equality for all. Our focus is on women, youth education, and sustainable projects. And we empower our citizens, especially those of low, moderate income and who are underserved and underrepresented. Every month throughout the rest of 2021, we'll be bringing together women who are making an impact in our communities, and we'll cover topics that are important to all of us. But the whole purpose of our series is to educate, empower, and inspire. So today, we do have a live chat, as you guys have started to see. We definitely encourage you to engage with our panelists and utilize that chat box to ask questions. We will try to take them live as topics are coming, but if we don't get to you, don't worry. We'll either respond to you on the back end after we're done, or we'll try to do it live right now. So with that, we're going to get started. So our first panelist today is Bisi MacGregor. She is an expert in mastering and transcending internal fears, an award-winning international speaker, TEDx speaker, and results-focused facilitator. With a corporate finance career of over 2 decades, she overcame the challenges, demands, and politics of corporate and answered the calling for her soul. She is a founder of Fear to Freedom, whose focus audience is executives, high-level professionals, business owners, and companies. She delivers coaching, training, and speaking services using her proprietary Live More, Fear Less methodology to disrupt the status quo of your mindset so that you can discover your own fearless formula for success. She is based in Georgia and works with clients internationally. Welcome, Bisi.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Our next panelist today is Tammy Baghdassarian, who is the executive director and co-founder of Keystone Treatment in Los Angeles. Keystone specializes in treating disordered eating, and mental health, utilizing an intuitive eating philosophy and evidence-based approaches, including dialectical behavioral therapy. Keystone is recognized for being a highly individualized program that can work with clients to stop the cycle of going in and out of treatment. Tammy has comprehensively been trained by DBT by Charles Swenson and Alan Frizzetti. Prior to opening the Keystone Treatment, Tammy has worked with eating disorder and mental health for the last 12 years. She was the operations director and special projects coordinator at the Bella Vita. After leaving in 2013, she went on to consult at multiple programs in the area, working on development and licensing. It was during that time she realized that if there was going to be a change brought to the eating disorder field, a new approach and program was necessary. In addition to working with the mental health field, Tammy has worked in production management for the last 15 years and is very passionate about working with the theater realm, bringing poignant stories to life in an audience. Welcome, Tammy.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And lastly, we have Dr. Yvonne Jackson, who specializes in individual, couples, and family therapy and practices at the Living Hope Counseling Center in Rancho Cucamonga, California. As a graduate of Oklahoma University, Loma Linda University, and Chapman University, she has over 32 years experience as an RN and over 8 years as a marriage and family therapist. And she's currently a doctoral student at North Central University. Among her areas of expertise is Christian counseling, trauma, couples, anger management, and family counseling. She is also a clinical supervisor overseeing the work of trainees and associates. In addition to being a prominent relationship therapist, Yvonne has presented at multicultural Christian counseling conferences and general audiences, speaking on the topic of caring for ministry leaders, a multicultural approach to effective ministry. Yvonne is an interactive-based therapist. Her therapeutic approach is to provide support and practical feedback to help clients effectively address personal life changes. She integrates complementary methodologies and techniques to offer a highly personalized approach tailored to each client. With compassion and understanding, she works with each individual to help them build their strengths and attain the personal growth they are committed to accomplishing. Welcome, Dr. Jackson.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Oh, ladies, welcome, welcome. So incredibly grateful for you all to join us here today. We have a really big topic talking about mental health. And for women, how do we go and balance our careers and our families, especially as we start to think about what does this new normal look like coming out of the pandemic? So, to get started, I'd love for all of our audience to hear a little bit more about each of you. So, Bisi, I'm going to start with you. In your own words, tell me what inspired you to pursue your career.
This current career.
This current career.
Yeah, because this is my second. So I say to folks that I've had 3 divorces in my life. I've gone through 3 divorces. One has been from my husband, a man, and the second was from my corporate career. And the third was the biggest of all, from myself, my old self, who settled in a corporate career where I was burnt out, who settled in a relationship that no longer was serving me, where I was disappearing. And long story short, life threw everything at me at one point, and it came to a head where it just seemed it was time to have that internal dialogue. What is going on? What exactly do you want? My background is finance, corporate finance, for over 22 years. And once I had that conversation with myself and I was able to divorce myself from that old person, I switched careers. That was it. And I know I am in my space. I am here. I'm a stand for individuals, especially women, to live the life that their soul was intended.
Love. Tammy, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you?
Yeah, so I mean, growing up, I always wanted to kind of do therapy growing up, like help people. And I think that after I graduated, I started working in an eating disorder facility, and the owner put a ton of trust in me and really like took me under her wing and taught me everything about the business and put a lot of trust in me to help her grow the business. And I realized that I could be like very impactful on the administrative side of things versus like face-to-face in the room therapy. And so I kind of like changed my trajectory a little bit and started doing that. And then, a few years ago, I had a couple of friends that really believed in myself and like my idea and my vision for changing the industry and bringing the client back to being the center of what treatment is and should be, and just kind of let me run with this idea, which back then was kind of like an unbelievable idea that clients could intuitively eat in a treatment program. And we could use like evidence-based treatments to help clients with eating disorders or mental health. And we can run a business while also still being very client focused. And so, luckily those friends like really invested time and energy and love and care into me in addition to like finances so that we could open up Keystone.
Oh, I love that. Dr. Jackson, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, well, I've been around a long time, nurse for 33 years. And in the last part of that career as a nurse, I felt like I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't helping people enough. And so as I started on the journey working on counseling, not only did I want to help people, especially the underserved population, because we're not understood. And sometimes we're labeled as crazy, but we're not crazy. We're just dealing with a crazy system. So it's having that voice. So I got into this field to help the underserved, especially to have that voice and to train the underserved population to go to the next level and help other people.
I love it. I love the concept of being in service back to others. Mm-hmm. So let's get started. We said we're going into kind of a big and juicy topic, obviously with all things like post-pandemic, just new normal. Let's call it new normal because I don't think everybody is even really into this like post-pandemic world yet.
Right.
When we start to think about the term mental health, Dr. Jackson, what does that really mean?
You know, the optimal word you use with health, mental health, not mental illness, but mental health. To be mentally healthy, just like you're physically healthy, and doing the things to be healthy. And so mental health is good, just like physical health is good. And so having outlets, being able to communicate your feelings and your emotions in a calm, positive way, and helping others.
Excellent. Yep. Tammy, how about for you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that Dr. Jackson said. I think that mental health is a continuum, and like everyone reacts to different stressors differently. And we just have to, like, the pandemic really gave everyone the same stressor, right? So even therapists that were working with clients dealing with it, we were also working, like, dealing with those same things. And so mental health, I think, is something that needs to be worked on every day, regardless of whether you have struggles or not. Just like the way an athlete prepares for a marathon, like, you need to treat your mental health the same way you would physical.
Yeah. And that actually brings up then kind of like a follow-up here. What are some key indicators or behaviors that we should be on the lookout for, or we should be aware of when we start thinking about, are we in a good mental health scenario? And Tammy, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Yeah. I think that anything that seems out of normal to you. So understanding that we've all just dealt with this unbelievable, like, pandemic, something that no one had dealt with before. So giving yourself grace for that. However, if you feel like it's really impacting, like, anxiety, depression, even if your sleep is impacted, or if someone you know is starting to act differently than is normal for them, that's definitely something to, like, take a look at and see and check in on, whether it be for yourself or with others.
Yeah, absolutely. Bisi, anything to add there in terms of, like, indicators?
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting. I finally traveled for the first time last month. And when I was in Dallas, just transiting through Dallas, and I noticed throughout my trip, I was agitated. I was anxious. I didn't know why. I needed to just get to my seat quickly, and it was out of character for me until I paused and thought, what is going on? And I realized it's because I hadn't been in the midst of this many people in over a year.
Yeah.
And right there was when I was like, wow, this impacted me more than I even knew.
Yeah.
Even that.
I will second that. I also had to get on an airplane recently, and it was, I mean, I'm someone that travels 100,000 miles a year easily, and all of a sudden it was my first time I got into a plane for 16 months, and I was like, my mind is blown right now. So I understand the anxieties, the groups, all of that, which, you know, that actually comes to a really good question. You know, for that, the last 16 months, we've all been sitting here. A lot of us have a lot of changes that have taken place, either from employment status to our family dynamics. What are some of the biggest challenges / concerns you're starting to hear from your clients and peers in each of your specialties? Dr. Jackson, let's start with you there.
What I hear a lot is fear, anxiety, panic on a whole new level. Issues in the family, because some of the family is vaccinated and some are not, so we don't want you around. So then there's conflict in the family. And so those are some of the biggest challenges I'm hearing.
Oh, yep. Tammy, how about yourself?
Yeah, I would mimic the same things, like anxiety, depression. I think, like, food scarcity for us, particularly, we work with eating disorders. Like, the isolation has really not done very much for really anyone, but especially those that struggle with eating disorders or substance use or struggle with their mental health in any way. And also, like, I think family dynamics, right? Like, you have people that have been in the same space for the last 16 months, So quantity of time has increased with these people, but quality of time has decreased.
Right.
And I think like the effects of that are starting to kind of show.
Yeah, exactly. And when we say like a decrease in quality time, is that more around increase in screen time, increase in TV, anything like, is that usually what that means?
I think all of that. And also this idea that like, we have to be intentional about spending time with our loved ones. And I think when we went into quarantine, we've been in this bubble with these people for so long that we almost took it for granted that no, just because I'm in the same space as someone does not mean that I'm spending time with them. And I think a lot of people struggled with this idea that we need to be intentional with the people that we're spending this excess amount of time with.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bisi, how about yourself? I mean, I can only imagine.
Yes, a lot of fear. A lot of my clients, especially my corporate clients, they are very anxious about going back into work. I have some new mothers who became mothers in the past year, and they are really, really fearful about reintegrating in the corporate world. Some of my clients also they've come to this head where it's, now I know I don't want to do that. Now what am I going to do? So that they're facing that. Yeah.
I feel like I hear that one like more and more so. Coming from the corporate world, that's one that I feel like everyone's like, oh, I don't really know if I want to sit at this desk anymore for 10 hours a day. So I'm excited to kind of dig into that one a little bit more with you in a few minutes. So one of the things that has started to happen, I mean, you guys have all talked about this, is just about we're all experiencing new triggers. We have new anxieties. We have new fears about this, about what we're going into. Some of it goes from, I've been working from home and now I have to go to school and now I have to go back and start balancing pickups and dinners. And, I don't have the convenience of being 24/7 in my kitchen. What's the impact it's having on families and relationships, especially those who are trying to balance it all? Tammy, let me start with that because, with the family mental health and the family therapy that you guys do too.
Yeah, I think that, it's really overwhelming for a lot of people. I think we've forgotten that we can do it, number one. And number two, I think that our days have increased exponentially since we've been home. So we've been able to do more things at home, more things with kids. The ability to be able to do things online has kind of like increased our ability to do more. And the transition to going back into the office, I think one is a good thing, right? Like reintegrating into the world and being able to interact with others. But the other thing is there was definitely a benefit to being able to be home and being able to spend time with kids and being able to spend time with your significant other. And so there's a lot of pressure to figure out how we're going to balance it. And I think we need to remind ourselves to be patient with one another and ourselves and understand that this is going to be something that we need to learn how to do again. And it's okay if you're not doing it perfectly. And it's always okay to take some time away from work or even away from the kids, away from your significant other, and take some time for yourself, because that is the most important thing moving forward.
Oh, I love that. Taking time for yourself. That's can be tough, and I'm actually going to jump. How do we go about starting to look at structuring that? And I'll probably kind of jump around to a little bit to everybody on this one, because I think having more tools in our toolbox when it comes down to self-care and being able to prioritize me for, 45 minutes, an hour of a day. What's the advice that you provide there? How do you go about helping people structure some of those healthy habits?
Is that for me?
We'll start with you, and then we'll move to Dr. Jackson afterwards too.
Yeah, I think that it's about reminding everyone that it does not need to be an hour a day. It doesn't need to be 2 hours a week. it can literally be 5 minutes, step away from your desk and go outside and take a walk. And realizing that that is important too. And then again, being intentional, especially for people that have families, have significant others, do it together and do it separately. So take a bath by yourself and have like 5 minutes at dinner to be mindful with everyone together.
Oh, I love that. Dr. Jackson?
And I agree with everything Tammy said. I have an assessment I give to clients called Me First Self-Care Assessment. And part of that is, and I tell parents, just like when you fly on the airplane, you have to take care of yourself first before you can give to them. That's what they tell you when you fly. And so I have family, I love whiteboards. Okay, get a whiteboard. And everybody writes their schedule and what they have to do, and include the kids. Mom's work time. If you're working at home, mom works from this time to this time. Your school is from this time to this time. This from this time to this time is family time. And mom's going to spend time alone this time recouping so that she can be in a better mood for you. And then you can spend time. So I have them do a whiteboard break, make it plain so everybody can see where everybody's at, what everybody's doing, and teaching them to respect everybody's space.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to go and start to implement the whiteboard strategy at my own house now. Bisi, how about yourself?
I love the idea of including the kids because they're ever so helpful. Yes. So helpful, those kids. So for me, I what comes up for me right now is compassion is almost always the answer. Mm-hmm. And when I say compassion, I'm even talking about compassion for yourself first and foremost. I mean, and starting from, or even I invite you to think about releasing this concept of balancing it all. Mm-hmm. Like even just that alone, balancing it all has this, how am I going to do it?
Right.
How am I going to, it's so heavy. So really tapping into compassion, being kind to yourself, mm-hmm. knowing that we haven't been here before and it's okay, which means we don't know how to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And it's okay. Being gentle and being open to exploring what works for you. Yeah. You take a walk today, you implement the whiteboard tomorrow. I mean, what works for you? And if it doesn't work, try something else on. Yeah. But being really flexible and kind with yourself, first and foremost, before doling out the compassion on other people.
I love that. I personally I'm a big meditator and a big journaler in the morning. My mornings are like, there's something about just the silence of no one up, everyone's quiet. And it is like, I will go, doesn't matter how crazy the day is going to be. If I have that 8 a.m. meeting, I am at about 6 a.m. sitting there, cup of coffee in hand, cup of tea, starting it out. And then one of the things I always find is, if I can go and spend that 10, 15 minutes to myself first and foremost, it makes the insanity of everything else just a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. And I have a no phone policy. I have a do not disturb policy on my phone that starts at 9:30. Only a handful of people, got to be in my favorites. I'll still talk to you after that. But it doesn't come back on, and it doesn't go on until 7 a.m. So I am a big do not disturber. And that gives me, kind of as you were saying, it makes that my time is super, super intentional. And it helps me build that like quality time with my family during those off hours. Absolutely. I love that. I kind of want to continue on healthy habits because I think healthy habits is such a hard, we say it, and I've given an example of it. I love the idea of being able to do it with your children also. But how does a mom who's sitting here and she does have her 1, 2, 3 littles running around, she does still have to make dinner, how does she go about starting to structure those habits? Is it, does it go into the whiteboard as we've said? Is it just a trial and error? Any tips and tricks here that you can help so that people can take away with that? And anyone who wants to jump in first.
So absolutely. For me, I say, yes, does it go on the whiteboard? Absolutely, because this is part of exploring. This is part of trying it out, right? One of the things that I picked up personally, and for anyone who came into my space, which are my nieces and nephews, they did it as well. At 8 o'clock, I dance. I dance for 45 minutes. And what happens is, at the beginning, some of them are like, no, I don't want to. And then you see them move. You see them move. And it's such a beautiful and a powerful exercise. Not only are you exercising your body, your soul, your spirit, you're just elevated. So maybe even incorporating that while you're cooking, the music is on, dance, I'll come meet you. Again, it's trying out this stuff. What works for you?
Yeah. Dr. Jackson?
How do you incorporate it? I always, when my children were little, and now I have grandchildren, my grandchildren have a standing whiteboard in my house. So they go, and they've learned to write what they're going to do, so they've learned that. And so, and one of the things was, how do you incorporate that? One is being true to yourself, like Bisi said, being true to yourself and communicating that with your kids. Right now, mom needs to do this. Right now, mom is making dinner. Can you right now? And so communicating with them what you're doing, so they don't feel, so they can feel included, even though they're not cooking with you, but they know this time mom is cooking. So I'm going to play on my tablet. I'm going to draw. I'm going to write on my whiteboard. So I believe just when you have children, communicate with them. And if mom, after you come home, when you transition going back to corporate America, when you come home, I used to tell my children when I came home, because I was a registered nurse for a long time, mom needs 30 minutes before she can interact with you. And they learn that. Okay, because one day I came home and I didn't give them 30 minutes, and my one son took me by the hand and took me to my room. Mom, you need your 30 minutes. So
I love that.
So teaching them, incorporating them in what you're doing, even when you're taking your me time, let them know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'll even follow up. Like, what a great way to start to instill some of those healthy habits at a young age. I mean, think about it now. If I think about how I grew up, there was no time. It was, we came home, there was dinner on the table, we went to sports, came back, basically brushed your teeth and you went to bed, did your homework, and that was it. So those were habits that were carried on into my adult life. And then all of a sudden, I'm traveling 100,000 miles and I have to go have major back surgery because I didn't know how to go and balance the time and everything else that was going on. Tammy, how about yourself there? As we're talking about compassion and keeping it source and building those, what's some of the feedback or what's some of the tips and tricks that you share too?
Yeah, I think it's like a combination of both trial and error. Let's see what works and what doesn't, and being intentional with it. So planning time, understanding that some things might happen and the plan might not go 100% according to plan, but recognizing too that if you are like just coming home from work, you just picked up the kids, you're having to cook dinner and you're feeling agitated, realizing that dinner can wait for 5 minutes. Your kids will be okay by themselves. Just take a step out for 5 minutes and take a breather, because you're going to be a better parent and a better partner and a better human, like for yourself, if you take those 5 minutes. And realistically, there's nothing that can't be done after you take those 5 minutes. Like those 5 minutes are not going to throw yourself way out of whack. So I think like the most important thing, especially for like people when they're trying to implement this self-care, is realizing you can do it and you just need to keep trying to figure it out. And also sleep. I think like everyone's sleep schedule was like way thrown off with the pandemic. And sleep is so important. Like having a sleep hygiene routine, like having like time where you're like disconnected, like you do, like turning off your phone to do not disturb, getting a good amount of sleep and then waking up in the right way. Like I before, like when I was going into the office, I would wake up, take a bath every morning. And that was like the way I'd start my day. And it was the best thing.
Wow.
And then the pandemic hit, I wasn't going out and those baths like stopped happening. And I really noticed like a shift in like how my energy was throughout the day. So it's just about like taking a look at what things you can do to improve the quality of your day and your mind, and trying to implement them and schedule them in as many different ways as possible.
Yeah. I will also say I'm a very big proponent of the calendar, whiteboards, calendars. It's like the same thing. Like I am, just like I would have big meetings to work on, or, you have your 45 minutes, hour meeting, whatever it is. I also will do the same thing for making sure I have time to go do my email. I will just block it off, because then if someone says, hey, I need to have a meeting with you, it's now on my terms. I've made the decision if whether or not that hour is going to be used for a meeting, or if I'm going to still keep it to myself so that I'm not a crazy person at the end of the day. I agree with that. Those are great. Oh, I love all of these tips. I'm like writing them all down. So everyone's going to love these on the back end. So Bisi, I actually want to focus on your specialty a little bit, because I love this. I watched your TED Talk before and I was just like, oh, confidence, fear. This is like, speaks to so many of us, I think, right now. Because your specialty, which is all about discovering confidence and shifting your mindset from fear to freedom, or what I like to say it is living your best life, honestly. So much like figuring out how to balance our home and our work lives and not being super overwhelmed, there's probably a lot of us out here who are actually feeling, on the flip side, really, really lost right now. Lost because we lost our jobs and we still haven't found anything. Lost because this like world of staying at home makes it say, I don't want to go back into an office. I don't actually want to return to what was previously, whether it's, I don't love my job, it's not a fit for me, whatever, change. Let's just call it. Everyone is itching for some new big change. How do you respond to that type of statement? It's big. Sorry.
No worries. First of all, it's okay. It's okay. It is okay that you're feeling this way. It is okay. And I go back to what I said a few minutes ago. Compassion is almost always the answer. It is okay. Know that you're doing the best you can with the tools that you have right now. So that's the first thing. And really, you're already at the next step, which is the awareness of, I know I want something. I know I want to change something. A lot before the pandemic, you didn't know. People were on what I call their wheel of fear, just going 100 miles an hour. That's it. And they think they're making decisions, but they're only reactive, trying to balance everything and dropping all of the balls. So the first step is that awareness, knowing that, all right, I want some change. And then you begin to explore and ask yourself those difficult questions. What is it that you want? And make a decision around it. Make a decision around it. See, most people don't get what they want because they won't name it. Because they are afraid, what if I say it and I get judged and it doesn't happen? What if I fail? What if I succeed and the weight of it all? What if it's wrong? So people are in limbo. People are in limbo, not making a decision. And decisions are so powerful. They're literally, it changes the trajectory of things for you.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about decisions that I do want to, this was a game changer for me in my life. There's a statistic that shows, that research shows that more than 75% of our decisions are fear-based. More than 75 of our decisions are fear-based. Which means we are afraid of what will happen if we don't give a certain answer, as opposed to what we truly want. So we end up saying yes to a thing we really want to say no to, no to a thing we really want to say yes to. So when our heads hit the pillow, we say, why did I say yes to that? I really don't want to go. And then the next day we do it all over again. So there's this awareness that needs to happen, that at the junction of every decision-making point, you're either in service of fear or freedom. And now that you've heard this, you're going to pause and say, okay, is this my decision or is this fear? Is this my decision? Is this fear? So it's really in certain pauses also. There's a power of pause in certain pauses, for sure.
Oh, I love Dr. Jackson, with a family practice and working with couples therapy and individuals, anything to add there?
As I was listening to her when she was talking about fear, and I see that, especially with the pandemic, a different level of fear. And even when the couple are interacting with each other, one may say something and then the other may make a face. Fear comes on the person that's speaking and they change their whole topic. Okay, never mind. That's, and so when you mentioned fear, I said, that is so true. And then afterwards, why did I say that? I didn't mean that. I was afraid to, because when I see that, why did I say that? Because they were afraid. So I really, I agree with what you were saying. That's really interesting. Fear, and it's a lot worse since the pandemic, which is really because people have lost their jobs, and I need to comply with something to get a new job or to take care of my family. So it is fear-based. Why I took that job. Yeah.
And that brings up, so what does the impact of fear truly have on us? When we say no and we want to say yes, or we say yes and we want to say no, what does that do to us? And what should we be on the lookout for?
Yesterday I was on a call with a couple of my clients, and one of them hadn't been on video. We were on Zoom, as usual, on Zoom. And this was our third call, and she wouldn't show up on video. And sometime yesterday, her video came on. And I continued on for a split second, and I came back and I had to ask her. I said, what was that about? How come I get to see your face today? And she says, you know what? I realized fear has been making decisions for me all my life. I have just been hiding. No more. And this is a big part of it. I have goosebumps to tell this story again because so that's what fear does to us. A lot of people think fear is we're shaken, it's a scary monster. No, you can't express yourself.
Yeah.
You can't say no. You can't say yes. You feel overwhelmed, anxious. That's all fear. Fear will have you doing, I say one of three things. It will have you constricted because it says, oh my goodness, you can't shine that bright. People are going to see you. So you constrict. It will have you condemning other people and blaming other people. Your finger wagging. You're not taking responsibility. And then the third one is fear will have you conforming, because fear says it is way too risky to be yourself. You're not good enough. You need to do it the way Tammy does. You need to do it the way Dr. Jackson does. And then you start sounding like everybody else. You start walking like everybody else, and you wonder why you aren't fulfilled. Because you're not walking in your own true nature, in your true essence. So fear really would rob us. Fear robs us of ourselves. At the same time, so I want to leave this with you all so that you're not saying, oh my God, this fear, let's get rid of this fear. Because we cannot get rid of fear, right? But I like to have you look at fear differently. Fear is an affirmation of your growth. The only time fear rears its head is when you're stepping out of your comfort zone, out of what is familiar for you. That is the only time it rears its head. So whenever you're fearful, instead of looking at it as a stop sign, think about, oh my goodness, I am on the brink of something big.
Green lights.
Get excited. Yeah, so you start having a different relationship with fear is what it is. Start understanding the voice of fear and making a different decision in the face of it.
I like that. Does anybody else have anything to add to that? I love that. I will also agree. I think if everything's going copacetic and everything's wonderful, everything's good. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm happy, but there's something probably that's sitting there and it's nagging at you, and it's like, no, not today. And I will always say that my biggest moments of growth have always happened when I have completely stepped outside of my comfort zone. But I will also say on that, and I kind of probably will lead to this, but it's just I've really made sure I've had a tribe. I've had a support system that has been my ride or die. The one person, what is it? It's called, Brene Brown calls it the square, your square. Who are the 3 or 4 people that you are going to be, that you can live, or you can go to for everything. And it's like, it's unconditional love and it's unconditional conversations. Those are the people that you go to, and they're the ones that say, they're your biggest cheerleaders. Usually they're your biggest cheerleaders. They're not the ones that sit there and say, step back, don't do this, it's scary. So in that, I'm gonna kind of go with this question because I think this is a big one. How do you go about focusing and building that confidence and really living that life you want? Is there any tips and tricks that you can share with us?
Sure. Is that for me or?
Yes. Oh, sorry. That's for you.
So I do have a tool that I use with my clients, which I learned from one of my mentors, Rhonda Britton. Fantastic game changer. It's called Stretch, Risk, or Die. Ooh. So, and if I can quickly take 3 minutes to
totally.
So you want to draw something like this. So 3 concentric circles, just bigger, biggest. Now that centerpiece is your comfort zone. That's everything you know how to do. Easy. It is what you do today, whatever that means. It's what you do today. Mm-hmm. And then the next ring is the stretch zone. Now this is where you build your self-confidence, and this is where you beat yourself up the most. Because it's a little step out of your comfort zone. There are things that are easy for you to do, but you just don't do them. Just easy. You could take 5 minutes to journal. You could take 5 minutes to walk. I don't know. I want to oversleep. I want to sleep. You don't do them. The next ring is the risk zone. Now, this takes a little bit of courage. Maybe it's calling someone and discussing your goal. Maybe it's hiring somebody to hold you accountable. It takes courage. You're not sure if it's going to work. It has this level of rejection and I don't know. But it might be a step that's needed in order for you to achieve the goal that you want. And then all of that space outside of the third circle is the die zone. And it feels just like that, like you're going to die. It is so far out of your comfort zone. If somebody said, hey, Bisi, come skydive, I say, adios. I don't do that. People die doing that. I'm going to watch television. It is so scary for you.
Yeah.
So here's what you want to do. Decide what it is you want to change. What is that? What is that you want to go after? Write that on the top of that piece of paper. Paint what your comfort zone is. What is it that I do today? And then come up with 3 steps for your stretch zone. Remember those tiny things. You know how to do them. They're easy. You just don't do them. What are 3 steps? And then your risk zone, come up with 2. What are 2 things? 2 steps that might be scary. I don't know if I could do it, but it would be great. It would help me reach my goal. Just 2. And then 1 die. What's that 1 die? See, what most people do is they look at their 1 goal and they try to go straight to the die zone, and then their brilliance is challenged. Doubt sets in and they say, oh no, I guess, I was born into this mediocre family. I'm not meant to, that's it. So what you want to do is forget about the stretch, the risk, and the die zone for now. Just take on your stretches. Remember those simple things that you're not doing. Those simple things. Just take on those stretches. That's it. Now, here's what's going to happen. When you go to take on that stretch, fear is going to rear its head. Mm-hmm. Why? Because you're venturing out of your comfort zone. That's where it's assigned to babysit you in there. It is the gatekeeper of your comfort zone. So it's going to speak to you in the language that you understand in order for you to run back, retreat into your comfort zone. And it works relentlessly to do that. Your job is to see it. Okay, I see you. Got it. But I'm moving today. And you go. And once you take that step, acknowledge yourself. Acknowledge yourself for forward movement. Acknowledge yourself for stepping out of your comfort zone, because it is a win. It is a win. Because think about how long fear has kept you shackled in your comfort zone. So it's not about how big or how much you got achieved. It's stepping out of the comfort zone. That's it. So I don't care how tiny the step is. I have this for my clients. Celebrate. It's a win.
Get snaps. I love celebrating wins. You know what? I'm going to ask that quick question because first, I'm a big win celebrator. Tammy, how do you celebrate your wins?
I think it's about having those like good friends that like your ride or dies. I love celebrating wins with the people that have like helped me get here and have like participated in that. And so just like being really intentional in spending time with those people that have helped me get there is like super important to me.
I love that. Yeah. Dr. Jackson, how about yourself when it comes to celebrating your wins? How do you go about doing those?
How I go about doing, I'm a Marvel fan, so I'll watch a Marvel movie with some friends. So, yes.
You never go it alone. That's the other big, I mean, I think that's something I always think about is like, there's myself, and myself is my own fear and how I'm going to go about it. But really having someone to work with you and help you through that. I mean, I've had multiple coaches. I have a personal coach now that I work with, and it's constantly pushing you out of that fear zone. And sometimes you don't even know you're in that fear zone until somebody else calls it out and I'm like, I feel like you're working from a place of scarcity right now. And I'm like, so I am. Moving on. But again, that same thing, as soon as you name it, once you name it, and once you figure that part out, you've given it, you've already taken away its power when you've named whatever that is. And then you can start to build the plan, the actions, the steps forward to start to break it down. I love that. Absolutely love that. Ladies, we have just 5 minutes left. So I'm going to ask my last question because we have covered a ton of topics here, from fear and balance and everything. I think still one of our big ones here is, you know, there's the pandemic fatigue versus mental health. You know, one thing I'd kind of say, and I'd love for you all just to go around, and we'll start with you, Dr. Jackson. When do we sit here and when do we say, when do we start to say, I think maybe I have a problem, or maybe I'm not feeling myself? How do I go about asking for support, and where do I go for that support?
Well, first of all, there are professionals. And the other thing is, one of the things Tammy said is as far as pandemic and mental illness, did you feel this way before the pandemic? Is this outside your norm? I mean, are you feeling anxious, depressed, lonely? Are you self-medicating by having Amazon deliver packages to your door every day because you're just shopping and shopping and shopping, or eating tons of ice cream, or, you know, some way of self-medicating since the pandemic? People do that when they're at home. And all of those are problems. Seek professional help. You know, and sometimes talking to your friends and family, that's nice, but there's a bias there. There's professionals that can help you get past that.
Yeah, absolutely. Tammy, anything to add?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you were saying. And just adding that, I think like the initial hurdle of like, do I need help? Like, yes, you do. I don't know any single one person that has gotten out of this unscathed. Like, everyone could use help. So it's okay to ask for it. And it's okay to get that help. There's no shame in that. There's like you need it. It's okay. And like, there is time for that. So I think that's the only thing I would add is like, it's not a question of if, it's a question of like when and how, right? Like just get the help that you need. There are resources. Luckily too, like the pandemic has really increased delivery of services, right? So you have a lot of professionals that are doing virtual treatment now, a lot of telehealth that previously wasn't there. And while, you know, some people might prefer in person, which we're going back to that now, a lot of people, convenience wise, especially if you're traveling or you're working or you have kids at home, that telehealth option really like decreases the barrier to getting the professional help that you might not be able to get otherwise.
Yeah. It's actually like, that's one of those things that's come out from all of this is how much more has gone virtual.
Yeah.
Like you can go car shopping virtually now. Like, okay, awesome. Thank you. Love that. Bisi, anything to add to that one for us?
Yeah, and I'm going to take this from a fear perspective. Of course, fear says, don't ask for help because that means you're not strong. You know, it means all these things about you, and it's a lie. Fear tells lies. That's all it does. And I love what the Tammy said. Just it's not a matter of if, it's go get help. I think one of the biggest mistakes we do is try to just do this Lone Ranger game, and it just doesn't work. That doesn't work. Doing it alone doesn't work, and it's not a requirement. You also do not get a trophy at the end of it. Stop doing it alone.
Right.
Yeah. There's no trophies for coming into last place. There's no trophies for being in first place. There's no trophies for staying in bed all day. Like,
Right.
you know, we're back. Like, let's try to enjoy ourselves. And again, if we don't feel good, if you're questioning it, go find someone to help. I love that advice. Absolutely. Ladies, thank you. We have received so many gems here today. I think one I'm going to just say over and over: grace, compassion, and kindness. Those are three that really, like, they're three of my favorite words. I feel like there are three things that we need to do much more with ourselves. We don't have to do everything, and it's okay. Hey, if you didn't make the whiteboard, it doesn't have to get done today. That's the way I look at that one. That's my takeaway from the whiteboard. Ladies, like I said, thank you again. This has been incredibly helpful to all of our audience that was here today. Thank you for joining with us. We do have two events that are coming up that I want to make sure we plug real quick. On July 31st, join us virtually for our Bigger Than Fears. It's a women's music festival. We'll be streaming live performances from artists and musicians all day long. Follow the Niles Foundation on either Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and we'll be posting details often. Also, on August 11th will be our next virtual roundtable series. And this one, we're going to go and talk to some incredible female leaders who are out there making social impacts in our communities. So everyone and then if anybody is interested in being a volunteer with the Niles Foundation, please head to thenilesfoundation.org. There's a section there for volunteers. We do virtual volunteers. There's in-person volunteering. We're always looking to make, again, like these wonderful social impacts and helping youth and women with education and inspiring them to be really their best selves. Ladies, thank you. To our audience, thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you again next month. Bye-bye.